What's going on, guys? It's your boy Ethan. Hope you're having a great day. We're back with another video, another cash game vlog, and I am getting warmed up right now with some WPT Global right behind me here. Actually, gonna play some high stakes WPT Global before I get warmed up to play on the cash games later today. I'm actually gonna attend a brand new place, brand new property that I've personally never been to, called the Commerce in LA. But for now, here, WPT Global. I'm gonna play some online cash to get warmed up before I hop into the session today. So if you're interested in joining me on playing WPT Global, click the link down in the description below. It's always a good time, always splashing, gambling, and trying to complete this bankroll challenge that I might incorporate some of the hands there from the online side. So if you want to hop in, use the code down below. There's always a bunch of games running, from tournaments, cash games, really whatever you want. So it's a lovely site. I'm a big fan of it, and probably another huge thing that I should probably mention is that they've invested a whole lot of money into their security of the software. So you'll know that WPT Global is always going to be a safe place to play. Anyways, we're gonna get back into the bankroll challenge here, this road to $1 million, where seemingly I can't find a win ever. So I'm gonna hop into there. I heard that there's a bunch of bigger games running on the floor, so we're gonna check it out in a little bit. Let's get to the Commerce and play some cash games. My first time here at the Commerce, we're playing 2040 with $20,000 to start things off. And let's get into the very first hand. With the $80 straddle on, I pick up 10-8 of clubs in the cutoff, raise it up to $240. Get the straddler to make the call, and we're going to go to a flop of Queen 6-4 Rainbow. He checks over to me here, and I decided to check things back considering how I have absolutely nothing on this board. Turn comes in 8, so, I get to turn a little bit of something. It's second pair. It's a hope and a dream. He fires out $200, and I'm happy to make the call for $200. River comes a king, not really loving this spot, and my opponent fires out $200 again. Well, this seems super milky, but whatever. It's my first hand in. I'm unfamiliar with the players at the table, so why not toss in $200 chips? And he shows me Queen 9. That's the winner. Nice hand to my opponent. Definitely got milked for probably the maximum here. But we're moving on to the next spot with a much better holding King Queen of Spades in the small blind. The button makes it $160 here, and I make it $640. Good old 4 times the raise, and he makes the call. Off to a flop now, which comes 8-6-5 Rainbow with 1 spade. Really wish that my hands were reversed, or at least the flops were reversed, having 10-8 on this board, having King Queen on the other board. Regardless, here I decided to throw out $700, just hoping that my opponent whiffed on this flop as much as I did and folds, but here we go. He does not, because he raises to $2,200. That is not a fun situation for me here, but at least I do have an easy decision, which is going to be just a fold. 0 for 2 in pot so far, but we're going to move on. Jack 8 offsuit on the button. There's a low jack who limps in for $40. I raise it up to $160 because I have the button, and I don't know, I have a natural 8 in Baccarat, I guess. Anyways, for $160, I get the small blind, big blind, limper to call. 4 ways we go to a flop of Ace 10-9. What a lovely sight to see. It's an ace-high board with my open-ended straight draw. Action checks to me here, and I'm definitely not going to slow down considering I have some equity. I fire out $400, and the small blind folds, but the big blind check raises, but it's a really strange amount. Check raises to $1,100, and when I say it's a strange amount, it's because he had maybe $400 left in his stack. So when action folds back to me, I guess I'm just going to go gamble here, because who's folding for $400 more after $1,100? And no one's ever folding my hand here, considering I have an open-ended straight draw. So gonna gamble. I'm 0 for 2, but why not just hit it? So I'm all in. My opponent doesn't snap call, which I think is a little strange, but does end up obviously making the call after he put in about 75% of his chips. So we're all in here in a 36-ish $100 pot, and we're gonna go to a runout.
Hi, I have a straight.
You have a vlog.
I have a straight.
You have a vlog episode.
My jack high on the flop turns into the nuts on the turn and river. I have a 6-card straight, and I'm going to scoop this thing. So my opponent ended up showing ace king, which is a very, very good hand. Unfortunate for that to get cracked by a random straight draw that never should have been there in the first place. But here we go. running it up, finally winning a pot, and I stack an opponent. And only 2 hands later after the Jack 8, I pick up Ace King and raise it up to $120. We get 3 players to make the call around the table on the button, small blind, and big blind. So multi-way again, we go to a flop of King 9-5, 2 hearts. Action checks to me here, considering it's multi-way. I have a very strong hand on a board that doesn't really like to see many turns and rivers, so I'm going to fire out $250. And upon this, the button player raises to $1,000. Of course, I am going to call when everyone folds to me. This is an opponent whom I think is on the tighter side. So honestly, not feeling amazing about the Ace King, but we're going to go with it regardless of what happens. When the turn is a 9, I'm feeling much better about my situation. It's less likely that my opponent flopped a set of some sort, and here I check it to my opponent and he fires out about $2,000 with maybe $2,000 behind left in his stack. So once he commits about half of his stack into the pot here, I imagine he's never going to be folding, and Ace King, I already made up in my mind I'm never going to be folding in this spot. If my opponent has quad 9s or full house, 5s full of 9s, then so be it. He deserves this pot, but it's unlikely that's the scenario, and we're just going to go all in. Here, my opponent does end up making the call, so we're going to play 2 back-to-back all-in pots. This time, much more significant here. Over $6,000 to $7,000 into the middle, and we have Ace King versus his top pair and flush draw. We agree to run this twice, trying to fade a heart on both runouts and luckily hold. So here we go. We're on a little bit of a heater, losing the first 2 pots, but then winning the next 2 all-in pots. So nice to always have the best hand. It's really nice to get paid. And things are off to a very good start in this session. Back-to-back stackings of my opponent. So unlucky for my opponent here. Hard to get away from top pair and flush draw. I mean, you actually can never fold here. But unlucky that he missed on the hearts. Following the last 2 heater of hands, picking up King Queen offsuit in the small blind. Recorded this one a little bit late, so I limp in for $40 pre-flop, small blind versus big blind. He raises to $170, and I make the call, going to a flop of King 10-7 here. Obviously, flopping top pairs is always really nice. I check it to my opponent, and he fires out $140. I wanted to check raise this one here in this spot. I think it's probably more correct to do so, but I decided to just back out of it for one reason or another. I just call. Turn is the 5 of hearts now, so backdoor flush draw, and here I check it to my opponent, and my opponent fires out $440. Very specific sizings for some reason. I'm definitely not one to go very specific for 440, but I don't think there's much to read into here outside the fact that it's a pretty small bet considering the size of the pot now. So I decided to check raise this one to $1,400, putting my opponent into a tough spot. Maybe he has a flush draw, maybe he's a combo draw, but ultimately he ends up letting his cards go, which is great. So picking up another pot, winning 3 out of my last 3. We can't be stopped now. With all the momentum on my side, feels like I can't do anything wrong. It's a very nice feeling to have finally. I pick up 8s on the big blind. There's a button player who decides to limp. Small blind is my buddy Steven that I invited to the game. He raises it up to $160. Here, I decided to call the 160. Could certainly 3-bet, but here felt like a decent spot to just call. And now the button goes all in for $720. The good old limp jam for $700. Anyways, Steven now decides to raise to $1,500, trying to isolate. And now I'm actually in a really weird decision. And this is a really weird hand with how everything has played out. So I'm thinking 8s is actually the best hand I'll ever have here. I imagine I start 3-betting 9s, and I'm going to definitely start 3-betting 10s. So, I don't know how to fold one of the best hands I'll ever have, and I think Steven could be isolating a little bit wide, considering the button player is certainly good action, and this limp all-in doesn't really smell like it's very strong. So, thinking about the dynamics of this hand against my buddy, he has about $10,000 to start the hand, which makes it actually quite enticing to call the $1,500 pre-flop. So I call. Let's see a flop, okay? Why not? Let's see a flop, about $3,700 into the middle. And my opponent has about $8,500 to play for behind. So let's see a flop. Let's go. Flop is 10-7-6. So we've got a side pot, a main pot, and my opponent fires out $1,500, about 40% of the pots. And here I have a heart in my hand as well. I have a straight draw. I just can't really go anywhere with my hand as played. So I come along and call once more. When the turn is another 6, pairs the board. Now, pretty enticing now that I might have the best hand sometimes, but it's really annoying when he goes all in. Tough. He jams about $7,000 into a pot that is close to $7,000 at this point, maybe $600-700. So basically a pot size bet, and this is pretty gross and annoying now. I'm just confused, really. I don't know how to fold ever, but this is my first chance. The whole point of this bankroll challenge is to exercise discipline and folding. And I would love to gamble for 7K here, considering I have at least some draws. I don't think I'm dead all the time, right? An 8 gives me a full house, a 9 gives me a straight. It's pretty slim, and ultimately I decided to just let it go. Believe my friend. I hope he has a good enough hand, and he does end up saying good fold and shows the ace-10. The button had ace-king, and ace-10 is going to hold and scoop this one. So at least I made the right decision on the pre-flop street. I don't know if I made the right decision on the flop street, but at least I did also make the right decision on the turn when I folded. So it always feels good at least to make some disciplined folds, although this one was quite painful. Invite your friend over to play the game, and he immediately takes $3,000 off of you. Nice hand, Steven. We are moving right along to the next hand with ace queen of hearts in the hijack. Raise it up with a premium to $120, and I get the cutoff to make the call. So going heads up, the flop comes queen 4 deuce. Pretty sweet flop overall with top pair, top kicker. Really doesn't get much better than this. So I check it to my opponent here, and he fires out $140. Well, I think I am naturally going to be check raising a hand as strong as this. Certainly going to be doing this with lots of bluffs, and I think this hand is just a no-brainer slam dunk. So I check raise to $400. Let's try to get more money into the middle, please. And he does oblige with a call. So off to a turn now, which comes a queen of clubs. So beautiful. I'm just praying he has a queen now, then we can get all the money into the middle. Or if he has a pocket pair of some sort, he's going to be also very likely to continue putting money in the middle as well. So I size up pretty large here to $1,500, planning to make it an all-in bet on the river here. So he has about $6,000 in his stack. He takes his time before ultimately sticking in a call once again. Now just trying to fade a clean river. It is the jack of clubs. Definitely not the best card I wanted to see. As the backdoor flush gets there, I lose to queen jack, which is very likely that he could have. So here, I don't think it's the best card for me to see, but as played and with the strength of my hand, I don't think I have much of an option. I am going to put him all in, and he snap folds. So no more action, unfortunately. Maybe he just had a hand like pocket 5s, pocket 6s that got a little bit sticky, but hey, no complaints here as chips get pushed my way. Into the next situation with queen 7 of hearts this time. I'm on the button. There's 2 players who limp, and I raise to $200. Get the small blind and both limpers to call, so multi-way to a flop we go of 7-5 deuce rainbow. Action checks into me here. I'm in position with top pair, not the most popular hand to play maybe with queen 7, but hey, top pair nevertheless. I throw $500 into the middle, and I get one player to make the call. The turn is the ace, so overcard to the board, overcard to my pair. He checks it over to me here, and I decided to check this one back. I don't know how much merit it is to be betting here anymore. So the river is the board pairing 5. And once again, my opponent checks over to me, and I think I'm a little bit conflicted. Of course, I could get some value, but is it ambitious? I think yes, because what worse hands could really call? A 5 now is paired up for trips. A deuce is not very likely, so I just check this one back, and oh my goodness, my opponent shows 5-6 for trips, hitting the river and laying the trap very sneaky, and I'm just glad I didn't put more money in the middle here, as I clearly would have lost it. Sticking to the theme of premium hands, this is a joke because king deuce of spades does not really qualify for that. But hey, I'm going to raise it regardless in the cutoff, raise it up to $120, and I get the button to make the call. So against the same opponent that I had ace queen against, this time with a much worse holding. But when the flop comes 9-7-6 2 spades, we've got the flush draw, second nut flush draw to be exact. I check it to my opponent, and he fires out $200. And well, This is a really good opportunity for me, I believe, to put in yet another check raise against this opponent. Hey, I did it with top pair, top picker, this time with a really good draw. I make it $700, and for $500 more, my opponent does not take too long before making the call. So we're off to a turn, which is a king. Wow, a sneaky top pair with the worst kicker that I could ever have, literally. I decided to check this one and just slow play a little bit, I think. I checked into him and he fires out $1,300. And I don't think I have a decision, of course. Top pair, flush draw. I decide to call. And we're off to river, which comes a brick. Doesn't change the board, and action quickly goes check, check. And I got very, very lucky because my opponent shows ace 3, ace high, and they are spades. So lucky me for fading the spade on the turn and river. And even more lucky to bink a king for top pair to allow me to win this pot. So happy to run good in this instance. And moving on to one of the last hands of the night with 10-8 of diamonds on the straddle here. The cutoff player, who looks like a European player, raises it up to $200. I am just going to happily make the call here because it's a playable hand. Maybe could 3-bet sometimes, but I'm just going to be more passive here in this spot. And the flop comes Jack 4 Deuce Rainbow. Well, that's not really the coolest or friendliest flop in the world for me, but I get to see a free turn as it goes check, check, and the free turn is the 3 of diamonds, making it very, very fun for my hand to play. Of course, one reason is that I have the flush draw. Obvious reason, I have more equity. But secondly, I think the board would favor me a lot of the time considering, well, there are 3 low cards on the board, and if there's someone who's going to have a low card advantage, it's going to be me who called out of position, as I'm going to be defending quite wide and certainly can have 2 pairs. So for that reason, I decided to bet here for $150. For $150, my opponent does come along for a call, so let's hope to hit. The river is the Jack of Diamonds. Top pair has now turned into trips, and here with a flush, gotta love that. I decided to fire out close to the size of the pot for $750. And my opponent does end up making the call. I get to show the good news for myself. 10 high flush. And the opponent has ace 7 of diamonds. The nut flush. And wow, this is a little annoying to lose this pot, but obviously I feel like I just won the pot. I feel like I lost the minimum essentially here, betting pot on the river, got him to slow down and not raise because I certainly was going to be calling a raise for sure. But wow, somehow he just makes the call with a nut flush, and I'm happy to walk away losing a very small amount when it could have been a very big pot here in this last hand.
All right, wrapping things up in this session. Always nice to be home and to book the very first win of this $1 million challenge. I played for 7 hours here in this commerce game, 2040, sometimes the 80, sometimes the 160 got on. Pretty fun game with some local LA guys here. So I ended up buying in for $20,000 and I came out with a profit after 7 hours of play for $29,650. So phew, monkey off my back out of the first 2 sessions of this challenge here. Finally made some money, and it's been honestly a long time coming since I've had a profitable session in poker. So it does feel quite good. So I'm gonna leave the stats here on the screen of the total progress of this challenge so far. Currently down about $20,000, but hey, at least making progress through 14 hours played. And yeah, that hourly looking a little bit better than the previous video that you saw last time. So follow along for more content. I'll be recording this entire journey and documenting it. And dear God, please, fingers crossed that I get out of this hole in a reasonable time. But time will tell, and wish me luck along the way. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. One last big shout out to WPT Global. They're running a crazy promotion right now where any tournament that you play, they're giving away 100% of the rake back to the player pool in some free roll tournaments. So pretty crazy promo for the month of March. So if you want to hop in, click the link down in the description below. Use the code Rampage, of course, for a free deposit bonus, and you get all your rake back for the month of March. So can't ask for a better deal. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for tuning in. Peace.